Is it important to be cool? Well, I know one car manufacturer that thinks so, and we'll find out why this week on Motoring 2005.
TSN's Motoring 2005 is brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil, oils fine-tuned for different engines, and Midas, Total Car Care. We do that.
This week we're at the 6th annual Dark Night Nationals. This is where the tuner crowd hangs out each year. But you know, I got a couple of questions I need answers for. First, why do they call it Dark Night when it's not dark out? And second, why is the world's largest and some say most conservative car company here? The car company is General Motors, and they're the first domestic car manufacturer ever to set foot at this event. And as they like to say around here, what's up with that?
My life story strictly business never blew my chin. Mom kicked me out the house when I was flipping up the man. Put the boys on the street, make them walk with feet. Teach them how to eat and to seek for peace.
It's a show for people who modify their vehicles. So it's a show that's in the vein of the Fast and the Furious, actually. But it's actually real life, so it's actually nice to come down and see it here in Canada. I work for General Motors, and it's really significant because we're the first domestic automotive company to really come down here and officially have a presence at Darknights. So it's a really exciting time for GM because we have a new lineup of vehicles and we really want to get them exposed to this demographic. So we really want people to come out and see our vehicles and see that we belong here as well. If you go and see in the show field, we have a lot of Cavaliers and Sunfires. We have a strong following. And that's one of the reasons why General Motors is actually here. Part of the research we conducted, we came out here last year, did some research, and we found a lot of J bodies out here. And that's the reason why we're here. We have the new Cobalt and the new Pursuit coming out this year. And we really wanted the crowd to come out here and see these new vehicles because they're great replacements for those vehicles. We've got the Pontiac Solstice, and for me personally, that is our Mazda Miata fighter. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that vehicle released late summer, early fall. And we really wanted this crowd to get a first look at that vehicle because it has the Ecotec engine, so there are going to be parts available for it that are going to be really appealing to the tuner crowd.
It's a great show. It's a great time to be at. There's a lot of people here. There's a couple thousand cars, there's a lot of new rides, a lot of new products, a lot of new vendors. It's basically, this is the Canadian gathering for this culture. This is where everyone comes to, it's the ground.
So General Motors is here for the first time, considered a conservative company. Can they be cool?
It's in the eye of the beholder. GM, they can't. The new Cavalier is nice, the Ecotec goes pretty good, but will they compete in this? I don't think so.
Are they getting cooler though?
They're getting better. GM's getting out there. They're actually, if I remember correctly, one of the quicker cars in the States is a Cavalier, so, and the Pro Drag's there, so who knows? We'll see.
Now, I just spoke to some young lad and he said General Motors can't be cool. What do you think of that?
I don't think he owns a GM product. GM's come a long way in the last little while, and you can see by some of the cars here how cool they can be. The J-body platform has come a long way in the last few years. GM has seen a niche in a market, and they've started to support the compact scene in the J-body platform.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but there are people that may be watching and going, you know, I saw Fast and Furious. I see a lot of these guys out at night. They're a bad example for how people should drive, etc. Your thoughts on that?
Well, of course, General Motors doesn't support street racing or any of those illegal activities. And that's why we're really glad to come to a show like Darknights. They've really tried hard to address that issue. They have the Pacers program here, and they have their new program, DSR, so Driving Safety Recognition Program. So it's a really great way to get out there and let people know that there are ways to modify your vehicles, have a great time, but still obey the laws. It's called Darknights, I guess, because a lot of the people who come out here, they tend to drive their vehicles out at nighttime. So if you're by a Krispy Kreme in Markham and you're just hanging out on a Friday evening, you're going to see vehicles all coming together, because that's what this is really about. It's really about people having a good time, and it's about the lifestyle. So it's not just the vehicles, it's the lifestyle behind it.
I'm 30 years old and I'm here to have fun with the kids.
Is it cool to bring kids?
Sure it is.
Why is that?
Because they're here to enjoy it just as much as me. This is a Honda Accord station wagon.
With baby seats?
With baby seats.
I'm 26 right now, going on 27. I've been going to Darknights for the last about 3 years now, and this is where I belong. This is my hometown, my home turf, and for me, seeing General Motors out here really means a lot to me, because this is how General Motors is going to touch people like me. This is how they're going to get to my friends, by showing up to shows like this. So I'm really glad to see General Motors having a presence here today.
Hey TSN, you're going to have some competition because we're starting a Don't Get Me Started network. That's later on Kenzie's Corner.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
This is the Nissan Pathfinder.
But what kind of test drive are you going to put it through?
With this vehicle, we're going to be both on and off road. So jump in, fasten your seatbelt, and hang on to your hat.
Let's go.
You know, way back in 1988, in this very spot, we put the first of what was to become a very popular SUV through its paces. A lot of hair less, a couple of teeth fewer, and many, many, many years later, we take a look at the latest version of that very vehicle. This is the all-new 2005 Nissan Pathfinder. The 2005 model is longer, wider, taller, and now rides on an 89mm wider track and a wheelbase that measures 2850mm, which represents a massive 150mm stretch. This not only increases the visual impact, it bumps the interior volume enough to accommodate a third-row seat. You know, when it comes to utility, this new Pathfinder is still one of the better around. Now, whilst it's true you wouldn't want to sit anybody you like in the third row because of its cramped confines, and there isn't a whole pile of cargo capacity when it's in use, folding it down, which is a very simple matter, opens up 50 cubic feet of cargo space, which is 11 more than the outgoing model. Need more yet? You simply fold down the second row, and the Pathfinder, well, it'll swallow enormous quantities. The new Pathfinder is also more truck-like than its predecessor. Gone is the car-based unibody in favour of a modified version of Nissan's F-Alpha truck platform, which supports the full-size Titan and next-generation Frontier pickups, as well as the mighty Armada and QX56. The difference this makes is substantial. First and foremost, it ups the Pathfinder's off-road ability. Basically, the box frame rails make for a brawnier structure. Second, it makes the Pathfinder feel more truck-like than the outgoing model. All of that means that the Pathfinder's not a crossover SUV, and this in spite of its sophisticated double wishbone suspension. Now, it happens to do a great job in terms of ride comfort, and it also manages to limit body roll through the pylons. However, if you hit washboard pavement mid-corner, well, its trucky origins come speaking loud and clear. Where the new Pathfinder takes a much larger step forward is in the engine bay. Stroking last year's 3.5-litre V6 delivers a much more powerful 4-litre engine, one good for 270 horsepower and 291 pounds-feet of torque, 80% of which is ready to work at 2,000 RPM. The use of variable valve timing and a tuned intake manifold means this engine both runs smoothly and brings better poop off the line when the gas is matted. It also allows the Pathfinder to tow 2,725 kilograms. Now, all this power is relayed to the road through a slick 5-speed automatic and one of 2 all-wheel drive systems. The first in the lower trucks is rather basic, featuring only 2-wheel drive, 4 high and 4 low. While it can be switched between 2- and 4-wheel drive at speeds up to 80 kilometers an hour, it cannot be used on dry pavement without risking damage. Opting for the LE we tested adds an automatic set and forget mode to the other things, which is the right and only way to go. You know, while Nissan's playing up the off-road ability of this new Pathfinder, it didn't forget the luxury side, especially if you go with the LE. When you do that, you get power everything, including a power moonroof, very comfortable leather seats, a great audio system, and about the best navigation system the business has. But best of all, you get power adjustable pedals. Now, if you happen to have shorter legs like I do, it means you don't have to cozy up to the steering wheel and ultimately the airbag. When it comes to off-roading, the Pathfinder is very good and has some trick electronic assistance. Using the standard anti-lock brakes, traction control and electronic stability control systems, the four-wheel limited slip differential, also known as ABLS, brakes a spinning wheel which forces the power to the wheel with grip. In a challenging off-road drive, the system worked flawlessly, climbing steep grades even with one wheel in the air. Opting for the SE off-road package improves things enormously. Special Rancho shocks do a better job of keeping the wheels planted, while a hill descent control system automatically slows a downhill plunge to 7 km an hour in high range and 3 km an hour in low range. You know, there's absolutely no question that the latest Pathfinder is the best to date. It's got more room, luxury coming out of its yin-yang, plenty of power and a good deal of off-road ability. The unanswered question, how will a truck-based SUV fare in a marketplace that seems to favour car-like crossovers?
Midas tip of the week concerns inspecting steering linkage components for wear. An outer tie rod end like this one that I'm holding in my hand may not be greasable. You can't see a grease fitting in here. It's lubed for life, but it still needs periodic inspection to make sure that it hasn't worn out internally. I was working on a customer's front-wheel drive van the other day and I noticed that when I tugged on the steering linkage, I could almost completely separate this tie rod end. And when I cut the boot on it, in fact, it was separated and only being held together by the boot. You can see how much rust and corrosion is inside it. That wore it out, and the ball and socket were able to completely separate it if it hadn't been for this boot. So if you've got a vehicle that's due for a set of tires, an alignment, or a tire rotation, and or you've got any noises in the front end of that vehicle when you go over bumps or steer it, pay attention to this and get it in for an inspection. Make sure that you don't have dangerous components like this under your vehicle. Have the worn components replaced and a wheel alignment done. That's your Midas tip of the week.
It's the ultimate Porsche. The Carrera GT is truly the ultimate Porsche. Race car design, carbon fiber chassis, high-tech race-bred, 605 horsepower V10 engine. It is truly the ultimate performing Porsche ever made. We'll build approximately 1,500 for worldwide production, and about 30 in the range of 30 or so will come to Canada.
Basically, it's a race car that is put on the street. But the biggest quality, I think, besides other cars like Ferrari or like Lamborghini, it's quiet, it's user-friendly, and it's a car that I could see myself driving every day if I had the money to buy it, of course.
Thoughts on the GT? I don't know, we'd have to start running through words like awesome, extraordinary, amazing, things like that. It was a great chance today to actually get to drive the car. I've read a lot about it over the last little while, and it's certainly lived up to expectations. It's quite remarkable. On the track, we only had basically a couple of laps, which is just enough to whet your appetite, but it also showed the car to be not only extremely fast, but very, very neutral in its behavior. It's a car that is sort of easy to drive once you get it going. Clutch is a bit of an issue, and it was again on the road today. It's going to take a little bit of a knack to master launching the thing. But once you get past that, it's very drivable. There's great, torque all the way through the rev range, and it just goes very well.
they're not going to sell much. There's 1,500 production total for the GT, so it's more like a very niche market. But what it tells the world is that we are capable of producing a very exotic car, and therefore we'll transfer part of that technology back into our mainstream model like the 911 or the Boxster. So what they're telling the world is that we are getting back in the high-end race, and that will probably attract more buyers.
When Bob Lutz moved away from Chrysler to join General Motors, the industry drew a loud breath. Could the man who put style and substance back on the road really be the savior GM needed? One of the first tangible bits of evidence that GM had turned the corner was the Chevrolet Malibu and Malibu Maxx. First impressions of the new car were very good indeed, as the original test proved it to be one of the best GM cars tested in a very long time. Chief among its likeable attributes, size and flexibility aside of course, is its Epsilon platform. Now this is the same chassis used by the Saab 9-3 and European Opel Vectra, both of which are well known for their structural integrity. Indeed, the Malibu Maxx proved to be one of the few GMs tested of late that did not suffer from the usual rattles and squeaks. Now is this an aberration, or is the Malibu Maxx really that good? We intend to find out as this car enters our long-term test fleet.
Well, as you can see, there's a lot more here at the Darknights Nationals than just cars. And you know, our man in the Quaker State Garage, Bill Gardner, is a man of fashion, and I'm sure he'd really enjoy this show. But I wonder, too, if Bill could turn the clock back just a few years, if this is the kind of show that the younger Bill Gardner would appreciate.
Absolutely, Brad. At one time, you couldn't keep me away from a car show, or any kind of machinery show for that matter. I really like the ones in the wintertime when, you know, your car, your motorcycle was salted away for the winter and you were dreaming about next summer. Anyhow, one of the things that the tuners are really into is low profile tires. Now this 40 series tire that I've got right here came off of Volvo. It's a perfect example of a low profile tire. There's not a whole lot of sidewall to that tire. If you imagine the rim coming up as far as my thumb here, there's all the sidewall that you've got on that tire. Now that's great in terms of handling and performance, makes for race car like handling and very quick steering response. But it's very easy to damage the rims on the car or the suspension on the car when you impact a pothole or any other kind of road hazard, especially if you're a little bit underinflated on the tire. I'll give you a perfect example. This wheel right here came off one of my customers' cars. The car had been in an accident and repaired at the body shop. They did a great job in repairing the car. There was a lot of superficial damage all the way around the car. When they were done, they sent it over to a nearby tire shop for a four-wheel alignment. Apparently they did an alignment on it, and I was called in to do a brake job on the car while the car was still out of commission. I picked the car up, drove it a couple of blocks at low speed, and it seemed okay, but I took it out in the highway and road tested it, and when I got to a higher speed, the car shook like crazy. And when I did an inspection on it, I found that one of the wheel rims on the rear of the car, one of the aluminum rims, was significantly bent right here, so the wheel was wobbling, and it also had two cracks on it that formed a T shape, which is pretty scary when you think about the pressure that's on this bead flange area when the tire is up to maximum inflation pressure. It's a wonder that this rim flange didn't explode right out of there. And believe me, when I saw it, I jumped back in a hurry, because something like that is just, you know, a grenade waiting to go off. So the important thing to remember here is that if you've got low profile tires, or for that matter, any kind of wheel and tire combination on your car, if you impact a pothole or you're in a collision or there's any damage to the car from an impact, it's important to get a thorough inspection of the car done before you put it back on the road to make sure that you don't have some hidden damage like this that's going to escape the repair. Now this rim was ready to let go. I can't believe the tire actually held air, but it did. It was right up to proper inflation pressure, but it was just, you know, an accident waiting to happen. So we had to replace this rim. Now, sometimes when these aluminum rims get a gradual bend in them, a slight bend in one of the flanges, as long as there's no crack there, there's actually shops that can repair that kind of damage. The cracks in this one render it completely useless, had to be replaced. But it's really important to do an inspection, pick up on stuff like this before you put the car back into service. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 2005.
Parenting experts tell us one of the most important things in raising children is to deliver a consistent message. But that works for everybody. Nobody likes to hear somebody talking out of both sides of their mouth at once. An automotive example? Well, there's a drag strip near here called Cayuga. They run programs to encourage the tuner crowd to bring their slammed Civics with the coffee can mufflers out to the track, race where it's safe, not on the streets where it's stupid. And yet the local cops set up roadblocks at either entrance to the track, and they're running these kids for almost no reason at all. Blue windshield washer nozzles, who cares? And then the Darknights show, you saw that earlier in our show. I mean, General Motors, the most conservative car company in the world, was a big player this year, and yet the local cops are doing the same thing. I mean, finally, we got kids who are interested in something more than their stupid computers. They're not in their basements playing Dungeons and Dragons and plotting some deal where they're going up on a clock tower with a high-powered rifle. They're loving their cars. Now, with my color hair, I'm not a tuner guy, but I appreciate these kids love cars the way we love cars. We got to encourage that. What's more, by running these kids for no reason, the kids end up hating the cops, and what's the point in that? Now, I understand the communities are concerned. They see strange cars in their town. They're afraid mayhem is going to break out. Sure, if the kids are speeding, peeling their tires, the mufflers are too loud, throw them in jail. But if they're not doing anything wrong, what the cops are doing is harassment. It's not racial profiling, it's automotive profiling, and it's got to stop. I'm Jim Kenzie.
Now, obviously, the Dark Knight Nationals attract a very young hip-hop kind of crowd. But you know, it's nice to know they have a sense of tradition, because among the tuners is a first-generation Honda Civic. So there you go. Well, that's it for now. We'll see you next time out as we continue to bring you more stories about cars and the people who drive them.
People, they have no choice to buy a minivan. They have a large family or they need space, and it's still the best vehicle for those needs, but I think they have no choice to buy it. So that's why maybe the market is not there. There's still a lot of minivans sold. The best-selling vehicle in Canada is minivan.
TSN's Motoring 2004 has been brought to you by Quaker State Motor Oil, oils fine-tuned for different engines, and Midas, Total Car Care. We do that.